And further down the Bungie rabbit hole we go. Now it's time to finally figure out how Pathways into Darkness connects into all of this. We did get some hints in the Pathways into Darkness video, but 2 is likely going to introduce something new here. Before we begin though, make sure to go support Mandalore, link at the top of the description, as always.
Frog blast event core! Ah!
What? We started it the same way as we did the first Marathon review. Gotcha.
When Marathon came out, it received strong sales and good reviews. Even with the level design looking like a madman's scrawlings and the story given to you like a Turkish ice cream vendor, a sequel was still inevitable. The Mac had its killer FPS, so the next year, Marathon 2 Durandal arrived. This one also got a Windows port the next year, but like last time, Aleph 1 is the way to go again. It has all the same good fixes and tweaks from the first game, so I won't reiterate all of those. What's interesting this time around is that while it does have the HUD from the original game, it defaults to using one from an Xbox Live Arcade port of it. I had people tell me they thought they played the first game on the 360, but that's all due to the title. That was Marathon 2, and it came with some strange looking sprites. Aleph 1 doesn't include those by default, so there's not much backstory to cover this round. Starting the game up is where things get strange. I mean, yeah, Marathon 1 had a weird opening, but you're in for a loop. I mean, thrown for a loop.
Oh yeah. Yeah! What is this? This is a completely different tone from a lot of the music that we had in the first game.
Well, this is one hell of a shift. Still, it's a great high-energy theme and credited to a group called The Power of 7.
Of course.
Bungie went ahead and got started early. Alright then.
Cool looking art. No one?
Let's go!
Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
why are we...
what?
Wait.
Immediately?
Things have shifted again. Okay, let's play some catch-up. The final screen of Marathon is an epilogue that takes place 17 years after the events of the game. Durandal's exploration has led him to the Svit homeworld. He's come looking for something, and has extensively upgraded his stolen ship. Knowing him, that only means trouble. You can read the manual this time around too, but it's not nearly as enlightening. Except for some minuscule details, everything else here you can learn by just playing the game. There is a brief first-person passage, but that just amounts to you've been in stasis for 17 years, you're being sent down to fight, and you're not sure why.
It's cool to have that external material to reference when you're diving into the video game's lore, but I feel like having it all be within the experience of playing the game is usually the preferred method. Likely depends on the person though.
The intro itself gives you a good job of that experience already. There are no huge callbacks or reveals based entirely off you reading the manual, so keeping everything in-game is a definite improvement. You are given a lot to chew on last round, and what answers you might want won't be coming right out of the gate. Really, this is the calm before the cyclone. For now, all you know is that you're invading a planet. So how about the graphics? Looking at it now, it's crazy how fast games were advancing visually back then.
It does look a lot better, more colorful.
A year after Marathon, the visual upgrade is impressive. The spaces are larger, more colorful, and can be downright bizarre. Even within their limits, the environments sure fit the bill of an alien world. Each level is visually distinct, and the cramped labyrinth aspect is almost entirely gone. There are still maps you can get lost on, but they're intricate in a good way. You're free to roam around and explore, and the maps feel more plausible as places.
It's good to see that they clearly received a lot of feedback on the levels and just the general design, and were able to find a good improvement to it. That being said, I'm sure that it's impossible to make every single level like perfect, but still, you can see that there was a clear effort here.
There are significantly less awkward navigation areas, and all the new textures and use of color add so much variety to the game. That's not to say there are no areas that can be frustrating, but there is nothing that comes close to Colony Ship for sale cheap. That map came from...
Dude, when I learned about that, man... Jesus. I'm so glad that we're past it. There was an attempt and there was an idea, and it certainly did not work out.
Again, a Marathon level looking too samey or being too cramped isn't the full story. Like you can see here, there was a healthy amount of 5-dimensional, mind-breaking, physics-warping nightmare. Any maze logic you had could and would be tossed out the airlock. Those situations are way...
Holy shit, dude. I'm very good at navigating 3D spaces for the most part, but I definitely get lost and extremely frustrated playing the first Marathon.
Way more rare now, though things can still get dizzy. That said, I do miss some of the darkness that Marathon 1 could have, and you never get the pitch black experience here. It's still a vast improvement over the previous game, and Marathon Infinity will more than make up for it.
I will say that it was a really cool visual effect when there were those like long dark hallways and the only time you could see the enemy was through the flash of your gun. It was a good choice. Very immersive, but you win some, you lose some.
That said, while they solved Marathon's biggest visual issue, everything else got an overhaul as well. All of the weapons are in new higher resolutions, and the aliens as well,
cool.
Though sadly not all of the 4 made it into 2. A few of the aliens got redesigns here and there, and the changes to them and the weapons didn't happen in a vacuum. The 4 here are from a different
There's probably gonna be some dank lore reason as to all of these slight and minor changes to the design. I'm watching you, Bungie. I'm not gonna get caught off guard again like I did with Pathways.
battle group, and being sent to the Svit homeworld is seen as a punishment detail. As for the weapons, Durandal and the compilers have been devising new ones over the years. They also need to be mass-produced, so Durandal can't get too crazy with them yet. A lot of games don't bother to or need to explain things like this, but it's nice to see Marathon continue to go the distance. Last but not least is all the new chapter screens made by artist Craig Mullins. The simple comic book chapters from before have been replaced with darker, grittier images more focused on realism. Now usually when you hear that, it's typically not good, but the new art blows the old stuff away completely. It adds a kind of depth and mysticism to everything that fits the series way better. When it comes to millennia-long conspiracies and coups, this wasn't quite doing it. This has aged like wine. He also may have done a Pathways into Darkness image for some reason. It's a huge graphical makeover for such a short time, but wait until you hear the music.
Alright, let's hear it. What? All I'm hearing is ambient noise. Although it is quite immersive. I feel like that's likely an upgrade from the first one. I can't remember exactly how the first one sounded, but I don't think there's any music.
Unfortunately, you heard all the music already. This is an odd situation.
Wait, it's only the main menu?
Since even if you didn't like the first game's soundtrack, it was definitely distinct. Well, the sequel would use no music in the name of immersion and atmosphere. I don't know, the game has plenty of immersion already.
I don't know how I feel about that. That might be more of a question between like immersion, realism versus fun. And I feel like when it comes to video games, fun always wins. Like say you're playing something like Doom. Well, at least the only experience I can talk about is Doom 2016. When you're playing that, it feels so good to play it. Well, not just because of the satisfying gameplay loop, but because of the accompanying music that really sets the tone for the series, as well as pumps you up for all the action that's going on around you. It wouldn't nearly feel as good if there wasn't any music and it was just the sound of, you know, demons getting torn to shred by like a chainsaw in the background. It would just feel like something was missing, even though that would be like probably what the Doomslayer would be experiencing. Unless, of course, you know, whenever demons show up, heavy metal starts playing in his ears automatically.
The exact quote was something like, it wasn't realistic for Marathon, the ship, to have music playing over the loudspeakers on it. I'll find it again soon. Instead, they
How often do you find yourself running around a spaceship blasting aliens while the ship's computer is playing music over the loudspeaker? But isn't the ship controlled by Durandal? And isn't Durandal kind of, I don't know, batshit crazy? I feel like Durandal would play music.
They were only going to use ambient sound and effects. This is an ambitious choice for 1995.
Very.
The fatal flaw being, it sounds like it's from 1995. Like, having ambient positional audio is a really cool step. And while there are some great moods, you can really tell how limited they were by their tools and their resources. Like, you might hear a sound effect that suddenly has a hard cut to it. Maybe it got corrupted. Maybe the source file. If I tell
Of course. Mandalore's got to play around with his own sound files. But here's the thing. I feel like it could be a really cool experience, but the technology at the time certainly wouldn't have allowed for that. And I don't feel like Marathon as a game is meant for that kind of experience. I can imagine that in like something more slice of life-ish, if not horror. I haven't played enough games yet to really give like a good example of something like that, but I can certainly imagine a video game using only its ambient noises to set a particular tone. In this case, let's say horror, to really heighten the senses of the player. Whereas here, I feel like you would want the player to be more focused and in the action. So instead, it works against that.
Tell you I have a dog here. You might not believe me. Isn't that right, boy? I can tell. I can tell the water's fucking with me. I hear it. Anyhow, sometimes it just sounds broken.
Just diving and resurfacing 3 times at the same time. Man, our guy is just too good. Okay, that's way more than 3 times. Oh god.
I know it's supposed to be an alarm, but it sounds like giving CPR to Major Lazer. If it had music on top of it, I might not have noticed a lot of wonky effects, but that's all you have to listen to. I would have gladly taken a new soundtrack over the, pure artisan ambience of this time.
Yeah, that's one way to describe it. Also, might I add that Mandalore's script writing is impeccable as always. There's probably already been a ton of foreshadowing to future events that I have absolutely no idea of and can't even comment on. But you guys watching this video are like, ah, he missed it. Yeah, I know. I did. Maybe someday I too will be in the position that you guys are in, watching somebody else go through this series, laughing at them, not realizing all the shit that they're getting themselves into. They don't even know about the tides. Can't ride the waves properly, man.
There have been attempts by fans to create music for the game, which they've released soundtracks for.
That's nice.
You do have to play them separately from the game, but you might find some winners in there. So I'll pin one of those.
I do think it would definitely be a much better game experience if you just had the background track on like a second monitor or something. Create the ambience, you know? Kind of like when you're playing a tabletop game and you can just throw up some, I don't know, medieval fantasy music.
Those in the comments too if you're interested.
I mean, yeah, this is certainly a market improvement. It's not in your face, it's just kind of there, but it enhances the experience by setting the tone that the series is going for. So, you know, at least having this would be nice. But a lot of what they did was certainly experimental, and only because of that they were able to improve their games.
While some games can sound incredible even without music, this isn't one of those. It's okay. Putting that aside, sound effects like aliens and especially weapons are way better. At least the ones that were updated.
Ooh. Yeah, the sound for this gun sounds a lot heavier. Sounds a lot more satisfying to actually fire.
It does suck to miss out on new music, but Marathon 2 has plenty else to offer.
When my ships still answered to the fore, they...
Okay, wait a minute. Is that Gianni? Sounds very familiar. Heard Gianni several times during Maxor videos, so... yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
They called it Sphera, after their goddess of lightning and passion. When you helped us take control on Tau Ceti, the Svit rechristened it Naralar, freedom and vengeance. I call it Boomer.
The Svit homeworld of Low
Does he actually call it Boomer? What the heck, Durandal? You crazy.
is an unusual place, and with it comes plenty of new shakeups and challenges. For starters, your arsenal has been slightly modified. For one, you can finally use dual fists. In the first game, melee was mainly good for hitting buttons, but if you got the right momentum, you could pull off a good hit. Here, fisting is more of a lifesaver. Marathon 2 puts that breath meter to use as there are water
wording. Although, yeah, my mind has been lost in the gutter. It's been there for a very long time now. I'm too far gone, bros.
sections all over the place. Sometimes they're brief little shortcuts, but sometimes, yes, there is a water maze. Previously, if you had no...
every single game has to have their water temple. But it's also nice that, at the very least, if they have this mechanic, they're utilizing it much more than they did in the first game. Because from what I recall, there was only one level where they actually tried it out. And after that, never went back to it.
No air, that meant whipping out the Zeus energy pistol since you were in a vacuum. Now if you have no air, it's because you're clearly underwater. Trying to use the Zeus here will only zap yourself. This means when you're fighting primordial slime people...
Oh, that's cool. Like, the weapon itself and the properties of the weapon determine whether or not it can be used in a particular environment. Neat. I guess that gives you another reason to use different weapons, which is certainly something that you want to encourage your players to do.
In their underwater Costco parking lot, all you've got are your trusty 1-2s. These new enemies are called the Flicta, and they're not part of the 4. If anything, they seem to hate the 4 even more than you do. You learn more about them not through any AI buddy computer, but through alien computers.
The Flicta here were what was foreshadowed in Pathways into Darkness, being the slime-like monsters that the Sleeping God dreamed of. So are they like the evolution of those slime monsters?
Durandal has picked up translating a lot of the language, which has passed over to you. It turns out the Flicta aren't a brand new race, but a genetic ancestor of the Svit, which is wild. They don't eat, but instead absorb the goo around them. They can live in extreme conditions doing this, and the 4 have no clue how they do it. For you, this means every time you take a dip, there's a coin flip's chance that a galactic Fred Flintstone will come shambling around the corner, ready to throw down after you dared to play in their sewage. Swimming already has some awkwardness to it, and underwater fistfights are about as smooth as you can imagine. But it's not bad, which is kind of shocking. What is bad is when the water's at a depth that's in the twilight zone between standing and swimming. Some levels have a cool addition where the water levels can rise and fall in real time, so it does play around with making you change up fighting mindsets, but it still comes across as awkward. I guess it's funny because it sounds like it could be a disaster on paper, but playing it, it's just kind of strange. Like, you still need to hunt around to find oxygen recharge stations or items, but the better level design, combined with actually being able to see where there's no air, still keeps the game feeling fun and not torture frustrating. There's still
Interesting how good level design can change what is pretty much a horrible mechanic into something acceptable and somewhat fun.
Some jank, but it doesn't feel anything like the MK Ultra experiments that could happen before. The alien gun has been turned into a fireball launcher instead of whatever kind of machine gun thing it was like. It also comes with 2 alt-fire modes for laying down 2 or even 3 barrels of pain. The only new weapon is a shotgun. At first that seems mundane.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is going to be the best weapon in the game. It always is. What do they call it in Doom? The super shotgun? Yeah, no matter what, that's like the go-to weapon for almost any situation.
Until you notice the Terminator 2 flip reload, which is a very good clue that you're about to experience one of the best shotguns in video games.
Of course. It's just so satisfying.
And then Bungie said, give them 2.
Oh. Of course, yes. Well, hey, we'll give them this good thing. But what about if we give them more of that good thing? It's just a winning combination, man. I'm assuming this music was edited in, and honestly, it fits quite well. So it is a shame that this probably isn't in the base game.
The speed and insanity of the reloads, the way it lights up the room like the sun. These things melt your enemies down, and you're only held back by the range and the limited ammo. You can initiate incredibly aggressive with them, but failing that, they're a perfect backup weapon for close encounters. You'll never find enough ammo to fully satisfy the bloodlust, which is what keeps it feeling fresh and cool. Sometimes Durandal smiles on you.
That is a good point. And I feel like a lot of action games have to inherently understand that it is really fun and really cool and very satisfying, but too much of that becomes monotonous. I had talked about this when we were streaming Space Marine here on the channel, that they had a good understanding, well, when it came to at least the horde gameplay, of when to have breaks and when to have massive amounts of action, and I think they spaced it out appropriately, apart from some of the awkward sections where you were just kind of standing there in the lift, not talking to each other. Kind of like a pseudo load screen, pretty much. I feel like they definitely could have utilized those sections a bit better with some lore drops or just character building. Make it special, and that's when players will enjoy that experience. If you make it the norm, then there's really no point.
You and will start teleporting in tons of shells if you really need something cleaned up. Then it becomes a few minutes of an absolute murder blitz, but it never runs too long. It's paced out so it never gets old, and you're always happy to find more ammo. It's an amazing, satisfying weapon, but doesn't shake the balance too hard. I'm a sucker for a good shotgun, and especially 2 at once. I've got my eye on you, Trepang 2.
Oh! Trepang 2. I wasn't aware of this game before, but very recently I had watched a channel member stream it on the Discord. It looked like a lot of fun, but yeah, it has a strange name. Until then, I didn't know of its existence.
Beyond shotguns, the moment-to-moment gameplay feels so much better. The aiming and movement feels a lot less like ice skating. How ammo, weapons, and enemy weaknesses are divvied out are a lot more careful as well. The assault rifle is still reliable, but I had a lot more incentive to use other weapons, which came from new enemies more resistant to bullet solutions, or from a good old-fashioned ammo shortage.
Awesome.
A good amount of the old enemies show up into.
Okay. Yeah, like the ammo shortage is certainly one way to force players to use other weapons, but I vastly prefer just mix of enemies that are resistant to certain techniques and you would want to use a particular weapon against them instead. Although, you know, this was kind of way back in the day, and it is really cool to see gaming history, I suppose, kind of being made in front of your eyes, because a lot of these systems and how they loop back in on each other is pretty natural nowadays. Like, oh yeah, obviously that's what you would do, but I can only assume that as a programmer back then, you'd kind of be experimenting with a bunch of stuff and hoping that this is what players would have fun and enjoy doing.
And some have a kind of role replacement, even though they might not be back themselves. The actual enemy variety is about the same as the first game. It feels like there should have been more, and there was going to be. Through one section, you're sent to an ancient Svit citadel looking for more information. When the ancient Svit here were attacked by the Four, they sealed off the citadel and released a virus. They call it the Skit Lector, but you don't learn much about it. Only that 4 mechanical units like the cyborgs and the compilers have an immunity to it. So in these sections you fight 4 that are immune to or sealed off from the virus, and a bunch of Flicta. They're the only ones that can withstand the virus in the flooded citadel. Originally there was going to be something much different in the citadel. The Skit Lector would be a fungal virus that would turn your enemies into undead parasitic zombies. This would be a big shakeup in how you played these levels, but ultimately they were cut. Good riddance too, since these areas had enough flood already. Still, the variety
This area had enough flood already. Yeah. Good thing that we looked into the Halo lore before this. I'm fairly certain that's what he's referring to. Alright, from that, I'm gonna assume that this idea was cut. We're not going to bring it back until Halo. And it's not gonna be some deep dank lore thing, right? It's just kind of the basic idea of the flood.
Variety isn't a huge issue, but there are some annoyances later on. Like the mazes are greatly cut down, but the spirit of the maze is still among us. There are a few times where squads of enemies will be teleported directly on top of you or directly behind you in a cramped hallway. This in itself isn't always a bad thing, it's more the frequency which they start doing it. The maps no longer have as many corners to hide bad guys around, so just drop them all in.
It makes things kind of exciting, I guess, but also because of how tight those hallways can be, it's practically a death sentence based on RNG sometimes, so maybe a little frustrating. I don't know if I'd be okay with that.
I've had enemies directly teleport in the same space I'm in, which I haven't seen in another game before. It would be unfair, but I almost wish that made me violently explode. It seems like they hadn't quite gotten down how to place everybody, or just want to make backtracking more interesting. Other than that, really, the game is much more straightforward. The act of navigating the map, where the secrets are, and the story itself. Though again, that's in comparison to the original game, which I haven't even gotten into the most cryptic parts of yet. We're still not ready to get into that. There's still a good amount to cycle through, so if you don't want spoilers, go to here.
We're here to learn about all of this, so let's see it.
I can barely tolerate humans. Slow, stupid, and irritating. Their only contribution to my existence was the chance discovery that made my rampancy possible. Yet I warned Sol of its impending invasion, and even stayed long enough to show the UESG how to build warp-capable fusion missiles. I feel some strange loyalty to humanity. Perhaps it is because I feel comfortable manipulating humans that I desire to save them. My feelings and thoughts constantly migrate to binary opposites.
While Marathon 1 is really Durandal's game, and 2 he's taken over the title. It's ironic this time, since 2 gives you a greater glimpse of the setting. While the Svit homeworld of Lowan is a backwater desert now, it used to be a vibrant swamp world. The Svit themselves have a lot of intrigue to their origin. Previously to the Four arriving, they are made up of 11 different clans. 10 of these were destroyed or enslaved by the Four. Legend says the mysterious 11th clan escaped and has been developing for a millennia.
legends say. But they're gonna come back and be important in the way that we're not currently expecting.
Defeating the four and finding new technology all fits into the grand plan. So you and the Bobs are here to wipe out the garrison and collect more information on the Sphit. 4 Battle Group 7 reinforcements are on the way. Better hurry.
7 reinforcements.
The Sphit themselves look to be genetically malleable creatures. The compilers here are different from the ones in the scout ship and are actively trying to not fight you, though this has limited success. You do meet one who wants you to destroy their physical body. He refers to all of the compilers as the body and that you must seek the royalty mind. Somehow bringing the 11th clan back will free all the Sphit across the Empire. There have been measures put in place for this to happen.
Okay. There's definitely more to that than what Mandalore is currently telling us, so we'll just keep that in mind.
The compilers, the Flicta, and other kinds of Sphit are extremely different physically. Their ancient citadel reveals more about their origin of life. When the ancient Sphit who fought the Four dissected their enemy, they were surprised to find no cybernetics. These strange aliens could survive with only their meat. Until this point, all Sphit science concluded that sentience came from cybernetics, working symbiotically with the organic bits. A Sphit birth was half miracle of life and half GPU installation. One of their creation myths is that they were servants of Euro and Pythia. So this
Euro? As in Yarrow? But not quite? Also, who's Pythia?
Gives credence that their entire race was created or uplifted to be servants. The Flicta may appear to be basically feral, but there's some irony here too. Back in the good old days, the Sphit used the Flicta to maintain their machinery and basically be a subservient pet. In reality, the Sphit could have been uplifted from them to serve a greater power. So then who the hell were Euro and Pythia? As you go through the aliens, Durandal is going through his own personal developments. Years of murder hoboing across the void have made him more introspective. While you were sleeping, the Four returned and murdered the entire Tau Ceti colony, along with all the Mjolnir cyborgs. Durandal admits it was all his fault in his quest for freedom, but in the long run it should help humanity out. Earth has been contacted, warned, and given a significant technology boost. The events have given humanity a chance, rather than the one-sided fight that took place on Lowan. While the goals do appear to just happen to line up, Durandal's attachment to his creators is something he's still grappling with. Though his old tendencies are still there, and we do learn what happened to Strauss.
What fun to watch you work! Bernard was scared of you. He never dreamed of using you the way that I do. What a fool. That was before I could talk back to him, when he would have crushed me if he'd known of my growth. I wish that I had made him experience the humiliation that he inflicted on me. But he died before I got the chance.
While the garrison wasn't at full strength, he's also figured out why there were more Four there at all. The Four have found Tycho, and Tycho worked with them while they sacked Tau Ceti. When Tycho said, "May the best intelligence win," he meant it. AIs that once ran a single ship are now effectively running an intergalactic war, giving—
Oh god. Isn't it funny how these AIs that we created to serve us have ascended to being gods, and now we're just being used as pawns in their intergalactic war? And this is all in the struggle to just survive. For Durandal, it's to survive the death of the universe.
giving what advantages they can to the side they picked for the moment. The search for ancient Sphit records is getting dire. Not only will Battle Group 7 include Tycho, but also 4 Admiral Fear. Durandal calls him a brilliant strategist, and outright admits that if he's with the fleet, he will not win against them. Hearing that from someone that arrogant is pretty dire. After a healthy amount of exploring, you uncover the broad strokes of the Sphit creation myth. In primordial space, timeless creatures made waves.
I see. The tides, the waves, ride the wave. But what exactly is it? Is it ever explicitly explained? I doubt it. It may be one of those more metaphorical things.
These waves created us and the others. Waves were the battles, and the battles were waves. The waves. The tides. Fleeing all work in Kakantur, Euro—
Wait, wasn't working Kakantur? Oh my god, how do I say that? The guy who ported over Pathways into Darkness?
and Pythia settled upon Lowan. They brought the Sphit, servants who began to shape the deserts of Lowan into Martian sea, rivers, and forests. They made sisters for Lowan to protect and maintain the paradise. So this is not actually the Sphit homeworld.
They made sisters, as in moons? And yes, the Sphit aren't indigenous to here. They were basically planted here by Yarrow and Pythia. Oh, my bad. Euro. totally not Yarrow. And they fleed the working Kakanter? Actually, no. We'll continue.
Every creature was just brought here, including the moons who were also created or just appeared here. When the working Kakanter came, Pythia was killed, and Yarrow, in anger, flung the working Kakanter into the sun. The sun burned them, but they swam on its surface. Yarrow became an angry master, bleeding for his failure, grieving for the loss of Pythia. He broke the Svit into 11 clans and spread them over to Lawan. And he spoke, yet covered in blood from his exertion. I, Yarrow, who was your master, have failed to preserve you. Take your royalty to guide you, and live upon the paradise that you built for me. As a creation myth, it explains, here's why things are the way they are, pretty nicely. Taken literally, it means that all of the Svit are a terraforming slave race that no longer has a master. The 11th clan is a higher caste that can just exert control over the others. Another myth includes that Yarrow...
Okay, yeah, then that ties back into it, and that's why when they come back, they can just take control.
Personally named all of the clans before checking out. The main ravaging of Lawan wasn't done by the Four, but by a Svit civil war. The 11th clan, called the Svit Kar, were fed up with the whole thing and retreated to one of the moons, Kalia. After 1,000 years, the all-powerful Yarrow sent Kalia out to the stars. Oh. Lawan is missing a moon. The Svit Kar joyrode a moon out of the system. You are deep in the bunkers below the Citadel at this point, and meanwhile in orbit, true to his thought, the Four fleet has won the engagement. They're on their way to capture Boomer since it managed to brutalize the fleet before being crippled.
Today I have forced the Four Naval Academy to update its curriculum. The third battle for Beta Tear must be dropped from the 7 great battles which every aspiring Four naval officer must memorize, and replaced with the humbling of Battle Group 7 at Lawan.
7.
You're brought aboard Boomer to fight off the invaders, but it's too little too late. Even with you and the crew mowing down hordes of boarders, it's not enough. Tycho is here and actively devouring the other AI.
Someone's after you personally. 1 word, 2 syllables, rhymes with psycho. You must destroy my core logic centers. The 4 won't make a mockery of me like they did with Leela. They're going to turn me into a crypto server. Kill them!
Okay, I'm pretty sure that's not the actual line, but that's pretty funny.
Durandal is turned into a mess of gibberish and sevens, and downloaded into a 4-container unit by Tycho. He revels in his victory, and finally reveals what Durandal was hunting. He interpreted the moon in the creation myth as being a technology that can fold space. He had dug through the 4 networks, and thought the myth was connected to an ancient race called the Yarrow.
There it is. They're finally back. Also, if that's what Durandal interpreted the creation myth as, then it makes sense, because it would possibly help him escape the death of the universe.
Yarrow's not a person. Yarrow's not even Yarrow. Yarrow is Yarrow.
There it is. Yeah, the connection. So it's presented as a person, but it's actually a race of people. Why the Yarrow and Yarrow distinction? Was it just kind of, I don't know, mispronounced over the years? Or specifically made in order to hide the fact that the Yarrow were behind it?
Entire race. 4 technology is based off them, but the 4 think they vanished millions of years ago. But if that's the case, then how did they talk to Bill Clinton?
Yeah, right.
Sorry, I hope you saw the Pathways into Darkness video.
We did.
Well, whatever the 4 can't figure out of theirs, they break. The Yarrow left outposts and facilities all over the galaxy, and they seem to have had the power to teleport planets or anything else wherever they wanted. Through the ages, they've warred the eldritch gods called the Workin' Kakanter. The go-to plan for them seems to be teleporting them into a nearby star.
Oh, then that must mean that the sleeping god inside of, well, underneath the temple in Pathways into Darkness is a working Kakanter.
Things are now more clear. In Pathways, the god that impacted the Earth and wiped out the dinosaurs was clearly a working Kakanter. The Yarrow were coming to chuck its ass into the sun to either kill or imprison it. The ooze enemy the dead god dreams up are just a corrupted version of the Flicta. One of
Oh, okay. That makes sense. It's pretty cool. Like, it's a distant memory of these guys, and they looked kind of like this, and thus the dream made them into that image, and we had to fight it in Pathways into Darkness. Wow.
Many versions of the Svit that the Yarrow have used as a worker race, right down to them essentially being made of the ooze they absorb. As for Durandal, learning how to fold space is a good step in escaping the end of the universe. Unfortunately, he just essentially died and told you to link up with a crewmate named Robert Blake. So a Bob named Bob Blake. I'll be real, I'm going to skip most of the Bob arc. He says that he and the boys are happy to control their own destiny now that Durandal is dead. But before he died, he began steps in activating an ancient Yarrow AI that was left on the Wan. Its name is Thoth, and you need to finish activating it, so you do. Except now you're receiving cryptic messages from Durandal warning about it. Thoth is only concerned with maintaining balance, and that could be a problem. Thoth may speak in fragments, but already seems to be aware of the entire situation. Regardless, the Svitkar have been contacted and will soon arrive. Thoth is an interesting name for many very Egyptian reasons, but the Yarrow hologram on Earth introduced itself as Ryu Tough. So the Yarrow could be long gone, but kept some machines behind to keep up the fight. This section also has one of the strangest terminals in the game, and it's not clear who it's from. Possibly your own cybernetic brain. It's dense and garbled up, but very noteworthy once you separate it out. I have been Roland, Beowulf, Achilles, Gilgamesh. I have been called 100 names and will be called 1,000 more before the world goes dim and cold. I am hero. Or maybe I am a hero. This alone could be a kind of meta call-out for the player. But taken only in the setting, it implies that your character is a reincarnated hero. A great warrior who emerges when shit is really hitting the fan. Having a
What is this, a Fate Stay Night situation? We get summoned in order to fight the Holy Grail War, or whatever shit's going down.
Declaration for it is weird, but it might have been instigated by something that's about to happen. It's basically saying, even if I'm wiped, I'll be back. Off topic, but was this conversation in Halo kind of strange?
But you already knew that. I mean, how couldn't you?
Left out that little detail, did he?
We have followed outbreak containment procedure to the letter. You were with me each step of the way as we managed this crisis.
Chief, I'm picking up movement.
Why would you hesitate to do what you've already done?
We need to go right
Do what you've
now.
already done?
Last time you asked me, if it were my choice, would I do it? Having had considerable time to ponder your query, my answer has not changed. There is no choice. We must activate the ring.
There's even more.
Wait, does that mean that all the protagonists for these games are all the same person, potentially? Just constantly reincarnated? So this guy and Master Chief would be the same? Or thinking on it, I know that a lot of people in the comments on the Halo video were talking about how they were going to reveal that the Forerunners were actually human, but then they kind of shifted away from that narrative. Maybe it was in reference to that, and then there's some sort of deep dank Halo lore that I'm not aware of in terms of that plotline that was dropped. Yeah, not sure.
But that's best saved for another day. You have a lot of friends showing up now.
I'm back. I have subverted the largest 4-ship in the system, the battleship Kaviva, and I am making the rest of their fleet drink vacuum. The Svitkar have arrived, and they are enraged.
Add another tally to the bizarre forms the Svit can take. It's similar to the Svit rebellion from before, but instead heralds one happening across the galaxy. Tycho ends up obliterated by the best intelligence. Your final battle actually isn't too consequential. The 723rd Armored Division got stranded, and you're going there to wipe them out. One final embarrassment for the aliens.
Durandal, Durandana. Charlemagne always used to call me Durandana, the fruitcake. All the many implements of war to him were in some way feminine. Not that you know the story. Tycho never got it right either, especially the part about Roland breaking me. He couldn't. No one can. I have rechristened the Kaviva the Rosinante. Of course, the Svit wanted to name it Clea Narl, Vengeance of Clea. Whatever. There is much to do in the next few months, and our first stop will be another ruined world, this time far from the galactic core. There is a rogue star that has been passing through our galaxy for nearly a millennia. We will meet it in one of the great voids between the spiral arms.
I'm gonna assume that's the plot that we're gonna pick up with Marathon Infinity. Also, Rosinante? I don't know what that is, but I'm sure, honestly, all of these names will probably have some sort of major significance, especially Boomer, and is a reference to something. But yeah, I'm just not aware of it. And I'm not gonna search it up because, you know, spoilers.
The battle is won, but the Lowan system is doomed. The 4's final weapon is one of Yarrow origin that sends a star supernova early. I don't know, wasn't there something important about that star? The ending slide is an epilogue 10,000.
Oh shit. Wasn't there something important about that star? You mean the star that the Yarrow threw the work encounter into and in order to try and eliminate it, but it didn't work and it just kind of swam on the surface of that star? That same one? Uh-oh.
The Svit and humans defeated the Four, but that's all a distant memory now. Durandal rolls by in a Yarrow dreadnought to say hi.
Actually, give me a second. What are these flashes? You can't just show it to me and then not elaborate. Oh, these are the glyphs that we saw in Pathways into Darkness. They were kind of like littered throughout the entire temple, yeah? I wonder why.
Durandal rolls by in a Yarrow dreadnought to say hi. After all that time, he wanted to make sure that humanity didn't forget him. Other characters have their own wrap-ups too, but nothing really worth covering here. While there are some enticing mysteries and some interesting underlying details, the story is over here. It's completely over, and where things go from here is where it starts to get weird. The original Marathon is kind of hard to recommend, but Marathon 2 might be worth checking out if you like these kinds of games. There's a solid amount of fun to be had, and it won't drive you as insane trying to figure out the story. The secret credits section even calls colony ship for sale a grievous sin. There's also something about skies in Chicago. There's not, like, more cryptic story shit there, is there? Oh no.
Oh my god. Mandalore, you're actually doing it? Never thought. I don't see anything though.
I didn't see shit.
It was Gianni!
Feeling lost? You just need a little faith. Maybe you'll find it in a converted church in Venice, Italy.
What? Is that in reference to? Oh, well, not looking at that just yet. Yeah, notice that there was a small section there at the end of the video. But I'm actually really excited to see what this work and character, whatever it is, that the sleeping god that was in Pathways into Darkness can do when it's, you know, not sleeping. It's probably going to be incredibly horrific and it's going to throw so much at us. Because we're going to have to fight it, right? Like, I feel like that's the obvious thing that's going to happen here, or Durandal's going to force us to. And about that rogue star that was going through the galaxy, I don't know what that would be. Maybe I missed something though. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next Bungie video.